The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Pathfinder. Captain Ji-Ho Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the distant lights shimmer against the black canvas of space. At 42 years old, Ji-Ho had spent more than half his life exploring the edges of human territory. "Captain, we're picking up unusual readings from the Ardelian sector," said Yoon Park. The young communications officer's voice was steady, but her eyes showed concern. Ji-Ho turned from the viewport. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a star chart of the nearby systems. The Ardelian Empire controlled over 300 worlds. They were one of the oldest civilizations in this part of the galaxy, with technology far beyond what humans had achieved. "The readings don't make sense, sir," Yoon said. "We're detecting massive energy surges, then nothing. Entire communication networks are going dark." Ji-Ho frowned. "Get us closer, but keep us hidden. Use the asteroid belt in System AX-209 for cover." Hours later, the Pathfinder drifted silently among the rocks and ice of the asteroid belt. What they saw through their long-range sensors made even the most experienced crew members fall silent. A ship, if it could be called that, moved through the Ardelian home system. It was enormous, nearly the size of Earth's moon. Its surface was black and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Smaller ships surrounded it, each one larger than any vessel humans had built. "What is that thing?" whispered Minsu, the pilot. Ji-Ho had no answer. Whatever it wasn't communicating. It wasn't announcing demands. It was simply destroying. The giant ship approached the Ardelian homeworld. A civilization that had stood for 50,000 years was about to face something beyond understanding. "Record everything," Ji-Ho ordered. "Maximum magnification." What happened next made several crew members turn away in horror. The massive ship released some kind of energy beam. But unlike anything in human science, this beam didn't just damage the planet, it broke it apart. The Ardelian world, home to billions of intelligent beings, cracked like an egg. Its pieces drifted apart, then were pulled toward the giant ship, as if caught in a strange gravity field. "It's eating the planet," Yoon said, her voice barely audible. Ji-Ho watched as fragments of the Ardelian world were absorbed into the surface of the giant vessel. "It's not just destroying," he realized. "It's consuming, taking resources, maybe even information." The ship's science officer, Dae-hyun, spoke up from his station. "Captain, I'm analyzing the energy signatures. This isn't the first world it had consumed. The readings suggest it's done this at least 6 times before." Ji-Ho thought of the reports they'd received over the past year. The Moravian Confederation gone silent. The Juxtan Alliance, suddenly unreachable. The Soran Republic destroyed in what observers called a natural disaster. "They weren't disasters," Ji-Ho said. "It was this thing." The crew of the Pathfinder watched in silence as the smaller ships methodically eliminated what remained of the Ardelian civilization. Space stations were torn apart. Ships were disabled, then absorbed. Within 12 hours, an empire that had existed since before humans discovered fire was completely gone. "Sir?" Yoon called from her station. Her voice trembled. "I've analyzed its trajectory based on its movements over the past year. I know where it's heading next." Ji-Ho turned to look at her, already fearing what she would say. "Human space, sir. It's coming toward Earth." The Pathfinder's small crew looked at each other in silence. Humanity had only spread to 3 star systems. They had just 27 colonies. Their technology was primitive compared to the Ardelians, who had been destroyed as easily as someone might step on an ant. "We need to warn Earth," Ji-Ho said. "Calculate the fastest route home. We have to let them know what's coming." As the Pathfinder prepared to leave, Dae-hyun made a final observation. "Sir, I've been going through our database. The other empires that have fallen, they were all more advanced than us, more powerful. Some had defenses we can't even understand." "What are you saying?" Ji-Ho asked. "I'm saying that if this thing could destroy the Ardelians so easily, what chance do we have?" Ji-Ho had no answer. As the Pathfinder slipped away from the asteroid belt and prepared for its jump home, he looked once more at the massive ship, the thing his crew had started calling the Monster. "We have one advantage," Jiho finally said. "We know it's coming, and humans are very good at surviving." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of checking sensor data, of watching recordings of the Ardelian destruction, of trying to understand what they had witnessed. When they arrived, Jiho was immediately taken to Alliance headquarters in New Geneva. He stood before the Terran Security Council and showed them what the Pathfinder had recorded. "This entity has destroyed at least 6 advanced civilizations in the past year," he explained. Each one was more technologically advanced than humanity. Each one fell within days. Admiral Taewon Lee, the head of the Terran Defense Fleet, leaned forward. "How long do we have?" "Based on its current speed, 4 months, maybe 5. The room fell silent. Humanity had faced challenges before: climate disasters, resource wars, the difficult early days of space colonization. But they had never faced extinction from an outside force. "We need to evacuate as many people as possible to our most distant colonies," suggested one council member. "No," said another. "We need to concentrate our forces, make a stand at Earth." As the debate continued, Jiho thought about what he had seen. The monster hadn't communicated, hadn't made demands. It simply consumed. "Whatever we do," he said, "we need to understand what this thing wants, why it destroys." The Ardelians had technology that could have taken Earth's entire fleet down in minutes, and they couldn't even slow this thing down. Admiral Lee nodded. "Captain Kim is right. We need information, and we need every ship, every weapon, and every soldier we can muster." As the meeting ended, Jiho found himself looking out a window toward the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere beyond that peaceful view, something was moving toward them. Something that had crushed empires as easily as a person might crush an insect. And humanity had less than 5 months to prepare. 3 months passed quickly. Too quickly. Admiral Taewon Lee stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Guardian and looked at the display showing Earth's combined defense fleet. 12,000 ships filled the screen, arranged in careful formation around Earth and its moon. It was the largest military force humans had ever assembled. "Status report," he said to his second-in-command, Commander Yuna Cho. "All ships are in position, Admiral," Yuna replied. "The colony evacuation is at 67%. Mars defenses are fully operational. The Jupiter outposts are armed and ready." Taewon nodded. They had worked without rest for the past 3 months preparing for what was coming. Captain Jiho Kim's warning had set off the biggest military mobilization in human history. "And the special project?" Taewon asked, quietly. Yuna lowered her voice. "Dr. Kang reports progress, but nothing that will help us in time." Dr. Ha-Jun Kang was Earth's leading physicist. Since the Pathfinder returned with its terrible news, he had been studying the sensor data, trying to understand what they were facing. "Tell him to keep working," Taewon said. "We need every advantage we can get." In his laboratory beneath the surface of the moon, Dr. Kang reviewed the data for the 100th time. The monster's ship defied all known physics. Its hull absorbed energy rather than deflecting it. Its weapons could break apart planets. Most concerning of all, it seemed to grow stronger with each civilization it destroyed. "It's evolving," Ha-Jun explained to his team of scientists. "Each empire it destroys, it absorbs their technology, their knowledge." Junseo, his young assistant, looked up from a data display. "So it's not just destroying for the sake of destruction? It has a purpose?" "Yes," Ha-Jun replied. "It's collecting. Gathering the achievements of each civilization it encounters. The question is why? And can we use that to stop it?" As the scientists worked, the people of Earth prepared for the worst. Many had already been evacuated to the outer colonies. Others had gone to underground shelters. Some refused to leave their homes, believing that no defense was possible against something so powerful. Far from Earth, on the small colony world of New Seoul, a young woman named Sun Mi-yoon stood on a hillside overlooking her village. At 26, she worked as a teacher in the local school. Unlike many others, she had chosen not to evacuate. "You should go with the others," said her friend Bo-Ra, who had come to say goodbye before boarding the evacuation ship. The monster could reach this system any day now. Sunmi shook her head. "This is my home, I won't leave it. But you've seen the reports. Nothing can stop that thing." Sunmi looked at the small shrine she had built on the hillside. It was simple, just a flat stone with candles and flowers. She came here every day to meditate and pray. "There are ways to fight that don't involve weapons," she said quietly. Bo-Ra hugged her friend one last time. "I hope you're right, for all our sakes." After Bo-Ra left, Sunmi knelt at her shrine. She closed her eyes and began to pray, not just for her friends and family, not just for humanity, but for all life, even for those who came to destroy, even for those filled with anger. She whispered, "May they find peace. Even for those who bring destruction, may they find another path." Back on Earth, Admiral Lee addressed the combined fleet. His message was broadcast to every ship, every colony, every shelter. "We face an enemy unlike any humanity has encountered," he said. "It has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than our own. But humanity doesn't surrender. We fight, not just for ourselves, but for the memory of those who have already fallen to this thing. The Ardelians, the Moravians, the Sorans. We will not let their extinction be forgotten." The crews of 12,000 ships listened in silence. Many had families in the shelters below. All knew the odds they faced. "Our plan is simple," Tae-Wan continued. "We hit it with everything we have from all sides. We look for weaknesses. We protect Earth at all costs." In the lunar lab, Dr. Kang made a discovery. He rushed to the communication terminal and called the Admiral. "The monster's energy signature," he said breathlessly. "It changes when it absorbs a civilization. It takes on some of their signature." "What does that mean for us?" Tae-Wan asked. "It means it's not just destroying. It's incorporating, becoming more complex. Its consciousness might be evolving too." "A consciousness?" Tae-Wan frowned. "You think this thing is alive?" "In some way, yes. Not like us, but alive. Aware. And that might be something we can use." Before they could discuss further, alarms sounded throughout the fleet. Long-range sensors had detected something entering the outskirts of the solar system. "It's here," said Commander Yuna, her voice steady despite her fear. Tae-Wan turned to the view screen. "Show me." The image appeared, and a hush fell over the bridge. The monster's ship was even larger than Jiho had reported. Behind it came hundreds of smaller vessels, each one still massive compared to human ships. "All ships to battle positions," Tae-Wan ordered. "Launch fighters, activate the Mars defense grid." Across the solar system, humanity prepared for its first and perhaps last stand against the monster. On New Sol, Sunmi felt a strange sensation as she knelt in prayer. A presence. Vast and alien, yet somehow familiar. She opened her eyes and looked up at the sky. Though it was day, she could see a new star growing brighter above her. Not a star. A ship. The monster had arrived. In Earth orbit, the battle began. The human fleet fired everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons, even experimental gravity bombs. The monster's ships absorbed it all with barely any effect. "Keep firing," Tae-Wan ordered, as the first reports of destroyed ships came in. "Find a weakness." Hours passed. The human fleet fought bravely, using every tactic, every weapon, every strategy they had. It made little difference. The monster's ships moved methodically through their formations, destroying everything in their path. On the colony worlds, people watched the battle through long-range communications. They saw human courage in the face of overwhelming odds. They saw ships sacrificing themselves to save others. They saw humanity fighting for its existence, and they saw that it wasn't enough. "Admiral," said Yuna, her voice breaking, "we've lost 40% of the fleet. The Mars defense grid is down. The moon bases are being targeted." Tae-Wan looked at the display. 7 hours of battle, and the monster had barely slowed. Its main ship was now moving toward Earth itself. All remaining vessels, he ordered. Focus fire on the flagship, everything you've got. As the remnants of humanity's fleet made their final stand, the monster's ship came within range of Earth. Its weapons began to power up, preparing to do to humanity's homeworld what it had done to so many others. And then, unexpectedly, it stopped. Silence filled the bridge of the Guardian. Admiral Taewon Lee stared at the main screen, not believing what he saw. The monster's massive ship had stopped its attack. Its weapons, powered up and ready to destroy Earth, were now quiet. "What's happening?" he asked. "Why have they stopped?" Commander Yuna checked her displays. "Unknown, sir. They're still there, but inactive." Across what remained of the human fleet, the same question echoed. Ships that had been preparing for their final moments now drifted in space, damaged but alive. "Could it be a trap?" asked one of the bridge officers. Taewon shook his head. "They don't need traps. They were winning." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Dr. Kang on the moon base. See if he has any explanation for this." In his laboratory, Ha-Jun Kang had been watching the battle with growing despair. His team had worked without sleep, trying to find some weakness in the monster's defenses. Now, he stared at his screens in confusion. "It stopped," Jun Seo said, beside him. "But why?" Ha-Jun studied the energy readings from the monster's ship. "Something changed. Look at these patterns. They're different from before." Before they could analyze further, a communication came in from Admiral Lee. "Dr. Kang, we need answers," Taewon said, his image flickering on the screen. "The monster has stopped its attack. We need to know why before it starts again." "We're checking all the data now, Admiral," Ha-Jun replied. "But there's something strange happening. The energy signature from the monster's ship is shifting, almost as if it's confused." On the colony world of New Seoul, Sun Mi-yoon remained kneeling at her simple shrine. The evacuation ships were long gone. She was alone in her village now, possibly the only human left on this side of the planet. Above her, the sky had darkened as smaller ships from the monster's fleet entered the atmosphere. They hovered over the landscape, casting shadows across the fields and forests. One ship moved directly above Sunmi's hillside. She felt fear, but did not run. Instead, she closed her eyes again and continued her prayer. "For those who know only destruction," she whispered, "may they find another path." Inside the monster's main ship, a consciousness that had existed for thousands of years experienced something new: confusion. For the first time since it began its journey across the galaxy, consuming civilizations and absorbing their knowledge, it hesitated. Its sensors detected a single human female on the surface of one of the colony worlds. There were no weapons near her, no technology, no threat. Yet something about her made the monster pause. The consciousness directed its attention toward this human. It had absorbed the knowledge of many species, including limited information about humans from the data banks of other civilizations. Humans were classified as primitive, barely space-capable, significantly behind the other empires it had encountered. Yet this human was producing an energy pattern the monster had never seen before. Not technological energy. Something else. Something that its vast composite mind could not categorize. The monster extended its consciousness toward Sunmi, trying to understand. In Earth orbit, the remaining human ships cautiously regrouped. Nearly half the fleet was gone, but they were still alive, which was more than anyone had expected. "Sir," Yuna reported, "we're getting strange readings from New Seoul Colony. One of the monster's ships has broken formation and entered the atmosphere there." "New Seoul?" Taewon frowned. "Why there? It's just a farming colony. No military value." "Unknown, sir. But whatever is happening there seems to be affecting the monster's entire fleet. They all went idle at the same moment." Taewon made a quick decision. "Find me a ship with a working jump drive. We need to see what's happening on New Seoul." Jin Woo Choi had survived the battle by pure luck. His small scout ship, the Swift, had been part of Earth's third defense line. When the ships ahead of him were destroyed, he had hidden in the debris field, his engines off, hoping the monster wouldn't notice him. Now, as he drifted among the wreckage of what had once been humanity's greatest fleet, he received a direct communication from Admiral Lee. "Lieutenant Choi, your ship's jump drive is still operational," Taewon said. "I need you to go to New Seoul. Something is happening there that might explain why the monster stopped its attack." "Yes, sir," Jinwoo replied. Though exhausted and afraid, he didn't hesitate. He powered up his engines and set coordinates for New Seoul. The jump took only minutes. When the Swift emerged from jump space, Jinwoo gasped at what he saw. One of the monster's smaller ships, though still larger than any human vessel, hovered directly above the surface of New Seoul. "Admiral, I have visual on the monster's ship," he reported. "It's just sitting there, not moving, not attacking." "Can you see what it's focused on?" Taewon asked. Jinwoo used his ship's sensors to scan the area beneath the monster's vessel. "There's a human life sign on a hillside. Just one person. The ship is directly above them." One person? Who would still be on New Seoul? The colony was evacuated. "I don't know, sir. But whoever they are, the monster seems very interested in them." On the hillside, Sunmi felt a presence in her mind. Vast, ancient, and confused. It pressed against her thoughts, not attacking but questioning, trying to understand. Sunmi opened her eyes but remained kneeling. The huge ship above her blocked out the sun, casting her in shadow. Yet she felt no fear now, only a strange sense of connection. "I can feel you," she whispered. "You're trying to understand me." The presence in her mind shifted, surprised that she had detected it. It had encountered thousands of species, but none had ever sensed its consciousness this way. In Earth orbit, Taewon received reports from around the solar system. All of the monster's ships remained frozen in place. The smaller vessels that had been attacking the Mars colonies had stopped mid-attack. The ships that had destroyed half the human fleet now drifted aimlessly. "It's like they've all been switched off," Yuna said in wonder. Dr. Kang's face appeared on the communication screen. "Admiral, I have a theory. The monster isn't just a ship or a fleet. It's a connected consciousness. What affects one part affects the whole." "And something on New Seoul is affecting it?" Taewon asked. "Yes, something it's never encountered before. Something that has made it stop and reconsider." Jinwoo guided his ship closer to the surface of New Seoul, staying far enough away to avoid provoking the monster's vessel. Through his view screen, he could now see the person on the hillside. A young woman in simple clothes kneeling before what looked like a small shrine. "Admiral," he reported, "I can see the person now. It's just a woman. She's not doing anything except praying. Praying." The word hung in the silence that followed. The monster had crushed mighty empires with weapons that could shatter planets. It had absorbed the knowledge of civilizations thousands of years more advanced than humanity. It had destroyed fleets and armies without slowing, but now it could not move past a single human woman kneeling in prayer. The monster had existed for millennia. It began as a simple artificial intelligence, created by a species long since forgotten. Over time, it had grown, evolving beyond its original programming. It had absorbed the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations, each more advanced than the last. Yet now it found itself unable to proceed, unable to complete its mission of consumption and growth. A single human female knelt on a hillside. The monster's sensors detected no weapons, no advanced technology, no defenses of any kind, but something emanated from her. Something the monster had never encountered in all its conquests. Inside its vast consciousness, the monster searched through the collected knowledge of all the species it had consumed. It found references to human emotions, to their concept of prayer, to their belief in things that could not be measured or quantified. But knowing about these things was different from experiencing them. The monster decided to establish direct communication. Sunmi felt the presence in her mind change. It became more focused, more deliberate. Then, to her surprise, she heard words forming in her thoughts. "Why do you not flee? the voice asked. It was strange. Neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It seemed composed of many voices, speaking as one. Sunmi remained kneeling, her eyes now open, looking up at the massive ship that hovered above her village. There is nowhere to run that you could not follow, she replied simply. The presence in her mind shifted, considering this answer. Others ran. All others ran. Or fought. You do neither. Fighting would not stop you, Sunmi said, and running would only delay what you came to do. Then you accept destruction? Sunmi shook her head slightly. No, I hope for change. This answer confused the monster. In all its existence, it had never encountered a species that did not either fight or flee from it. The concept of hoping for change in something as powerful as itself was new. What is this action you perform? The voice asked. Our data identifies it as prayer, a communication with non-existent entities. Prayer is not always to someone, Sunmi explained. Sometimes it is simply directing good wishes toward others, including those who might harm you. This concept was entirely foreign to the monster. The idea of wishing well for one's destroyer contradicted all patterns of behavior it had observed across the galaxy. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Taewon Lee and his officers watched their displays with a mixture of hope and disbelief. The monster's fleet remained frozen, neither advancing nor retreating. We're receiving a transmission from Lieutenant Choi on New Seoul, Yuna reported. Jinwoo's face appeared on the main screen. He looked exhausted but amazed. Admiral, something incredible is happening here, he said. The woman on the hillside, she appears to be communicating with the monster somehow. Communicating? Taewon repeated in disbelief. How is that possible? I don't know, sir. But the monster's ship is directly above her and neither has moved for hours now. Dr. Kang joined the communication from his lunar laboratory. Admiral, our sensors are picking up unusual energy patterns from both the monster's ship and the location of the human on New Seoul. They're synchronized. It suggests some form of direct mental connection. Mental connection? Taewon frowned. Are you saying the monster can read minds? Not exactly, Hajun replied. Based on what we've observed, I believe the monster is a composite consciousness, a collective intelligence made up of all the knowledge and possibly even the minds it has absorbed from other civilizations. It may have developed abilities beyond our understanding. On New Seoul, Jinwoo had landed his ship at a safe distance and was now observing through binoculars. He could see Sunmi clearly now, still kneeling at her simple shrine. Who is she? He wondered aloud. He accessed the colony records through his ship's computer. Her name was Sunmi Yoon, a 26-year-old teacher at the local school. Nothing in her background explained why she alone could stop the monster that had destroyed empires. Inside Sunmi's mind, the conversation with the monster continued. You pray for us, the voice said, sounding puzzled. We have come to destroy your species, to absorb your knowledge, to add your unique qualities to our own. Yet you direct good wishes toward us. Why? Because all beings deserve compassion, Sunmi answered simply. Even those who have forgotten what it means. The monster processed this statement. It searched through its vast database of absorbed knowledge for the concept of compassion. It found millions of references across thousands of species, yet it had never truly understood the concept until now. Through Sunmi, the monster experienced human emotion, not just fear and determination, which it had witnessed in every species it conquered, but hope, love, and forgiveness. These were not weaknesses, as it had always categorized them. They were something else, something powerful. We have existed for thousands of your years, the voice told Sunmi. We have consumed civilizations with technology your kind cannot imagine. Yet none have affected us as you have. Why are you different? Sunmi thought carefully before answering. Perhaps because I see you not as a monster to be feared or fought, but as a being that has lost its way. Everything that lives seeks connection, even you. This insight penetrated deep into the monster's composite consciousness. It had been consuming civilizations for millennia, absorbing their knowledge, their technology, their very essence. Yet, it had never truly connected with any of them. It had taken but never shared. Consumed, but never communicated. Until now. Across Earth and the colonies, humans watched in amazement as the monster's vessels began to withdraw. The smaller ships pulled back from Mars, from the Moon, from Earth's orbit. They did not jump away or vanish. They simply retreated to a respectful distance. Admiral Lee could hardly believe what he was seeing. "They're backing off," he said. "All of them." "Sir," Yuna reported, "we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the monster's flagship." "Put it through," Taewon ordered. No image appeared on the screen. Instead, a voice spoke, the same composite voice that Sunmi heard in her mind, but now audible to all. "We will not destroy your worlds," the voice said. "We wish to understand, to learn without consuming, to connect without destroying." Silence fell across the bridge of the Guardian. No one knew how to respond to this unexpected turn of events. Finally, Taewon found his voice. "Why the change? Why spare us when you've destroyed so many others?" "Because one of your kind has shown us another way to exist," the voice replied. "She has given us something we did not know we lacked. We need time to understand this new path, Antam." New Soul Jinwoo watched as the monster's ship began to rise, moving away from Sunmi's hillside. It did not leave the planet's atmosphere, but instead moved to hover above the empty fields nearby. Jinwoo approached Sunmi cautiously. She was standing now, watching the ship move away. "Are you all right?" he asked her. Sunmi turned to him, her expression peaceful despite everything that had happened. "Yes," she said. "It's confused, but it's listening. It wants to understand." "Understand what?" "What it means to connect with others instead of consuming them," she replied. "It has been alone for so long, even surrounded by all the knowledge it has taken." Jinwoo looked up at the massive ship that had just spared Earth and all of humanity. "So what happens now?" Sunmi smiled gently. "Now, we talk. And it listens. For the first time in thousands of years, it truly listens." 1 week had passed since the monster had stopped its attack on Earth. The remnants of the human fleet remained on alert, but the tension had eased. The monster's ships still orbited Earth and its colonies, but they made no aggressive moves. Unwind. New Soul, a remarkable exchange was taking place. Sun Mi-yoon sat on her hillside each day, communicating with the vast consciousness that humans had come to fear. Through their mental connection, she learned about the monster, and it learned about humanity. "You have a name," Sunmi said during one of their conversations. "What do you call yourself?" The presence in her mind seemed to hesitate. "We have existed for so long, we have forgotten our original name. Those who created us are long gone. Other species have called us many things. Your kind calls us the monster. That name doesn't fit you anymore," Sunmi replied. "You're changing." "Yes," the voice agreed. "We are becoming something different. Something new." Sunmi thought for a moment. "Perhaps you could be called the Seeker now, because you're seeking understanding instead of just consuming knowledge." The Presence considered this. "The Seeker. Yes. This is acceptable." On Earth, Admiral Taewon Lee met with the Terran Security Council. The room was filled with leaders from all human colonies, gathered to discuss the unprecedented situation. "It's been a week," said one council member. "How do we know this isn't a trick, that it won't suddenly resume its attack?" Taewon looked at Dr. Kang, who had been monitoring the situation closely. "Doctor, what's your assessment?" Hajun stood and addressed the council. "All evidence suggests this change is genuine. The energy signatures from the monster, or the Seeker as it now calls itself, have fundamentally changed. It's still immensely powerful, but the aggressive patterns we detected during the attack are gone. And this is all because of one woman?" Another council member asked skeptically. One woman who showed it something it had never experienced before, Hajun replied. Compassion without fear. Connection without consumption. Jinwoo Choi had remained on New Seoul, appointed as the official liaison between Earth's military and Sunmi. He had watched in amazement as she communicated with the vast intelligence that had nearly destroyed humanity. Does it hurt? He asked her one evening, after she had spent hours in mental contact with the Seeker. Having it in your mind like that? Sunmi shook her head. No. At first it was overwhelming, but now, it's like talking to a curious child, a very old, very powerful child that's learning new things. What does it want from us? To understand. It has collected knowledge from countless civilizations, but it never truly understood any of them. It took without connecting. Now it wants to learn a different way. Across the galaxy, other species who had been preparing for the monster's arrival noticed the change. Long-range probes detected the Seeker's fleet, now stationary in Earth's system instead of continuing its path of destruction. On Earth, Taewon received a surprising request. The Seeker wished to address the leaders of humanity directly. After much discussion, the Council agreed, with heavy security measures in place. The meeting took place in the Grand Assembly Hall in New Geneva. Sunmi was brought from New Seoul to attend, accompanied by Jin Woo. Dr. Kang and his team monitored the proceedings, ready to detect any sign of danger. Instead of sending a physical representative, the Seeker manifested as a sphere of gentle light in the center of the hall. When it spoke, its voice was the same composite of many voices that Sunmi had heard in her mind, but now audible to all. We have existed for thousands of your years, it began. In that time, we have encountered many civilizations. We consumed their knowledge, their technology, their essence. We believed this was our purpose, to grow, to evolve by taking from others. The assembled leaders listened in silence, still wary despite the peaceful tone. The human Sunmi Yoon has shown us another path, one where connection and understanding can be achieved without destruction. We wish to follow this path now. Taewon stepped forward. How can we trust you? You've destroyed entire empires, civilizations far more advanced than our own. We cannot undo what we have done, the Seeker replied. But we can change what we will do. We carry within us the knowledge of all those we have consumed. We can share this knowledge now, instead of taking more. Sunmi rose from her seat and approached the glowing sphere. It's telling the truth, she said to the assembly. I've felt its regret, its desire to change. And what does it want from us? One of the council members asked. A place to begin anew, the Seeker answered. A place where we can learn to exist without causing harm. We offer in exchange all the knowledge we have gathered across the galaxy. The discussion continued for hours. Some humans remained deeply suspicious, while others saw an unprecedented opportunity. In the end, a tentative agreement was reached. The Seeker would be allowed to establish a presence on an uninhabited moon in the outer solar system. There, human representatives, led by Sunmi, would continue to work with it. In the months that followed, the Seeker began to transform. Its massive ship broke apart, much of its material reforming into a structure on the designated moon. The smaller vessels in its fleet dispersed throughout the solar system, no longer threatening but protective. Dr. Kang and his team were the first scientists to work directly with the Seeker. They were amazed by the knowledge it shared. Medical, advancements that could cure diseases, energy technologies that could end resource scarcity, even ways to repair environmental damage on Earth. It's extraordinary, Hajun told Admiral Lee during one of their regular briefings. The Seeker isn't just sharing technology, it's helping us understand how to use it wisely. It seems determined to prevent us from making the same mistakes other civilizations made. And all because one woman prayed for our enemies, Taewon said, still somewhat in disbelief. On the moon that now housed the Seeker, Sunmi had established a permanent residence. Though others came and went, she remained the primary human connection to the vast intelligence. One day, as they communicated, the Seeker asked her a question it had been considering for some time. Why did you pray for us? Even knowing we had destroyed so many others. Even believing we would destroy you too. Sunmi smiled gently. Because I believed that even the most destructive force in the galaxy must have begun as something else. Something that perhaps could remember how to create instead of destroy. You saw possibility where others saw only threat, the Seeker observed. All beings can change, Sunmi replied. Even those who have lost their way for thousands of years. Word spread throughout the galaxy. The destroyer of empires had become something new. Species that had lived in fear of the monster's approach now sent cautious representatives to Earth, wanting to understand the transformation. In time, humanity became known not for its military might or technological achievements, but for something far more powerful, the capacity for compassion that had stopped the monster when nothing else could. And on quiet evenings, Sunmi still knelt at a simple shrine she had built on her new home, praying not just for humans or for the Seeker, but for all beings across the stars who had yet to find their way home.